Today's chat is brought to you by, well, all of your support. Through the patronage you provide to the Focus Fire Chat team through Podbean's crowdfunding, we are able to provide you guys with the weekly podcast, as well as game streams, the website, and other aspects of Focus Fire Chat. If you have any interest in becoming a patron of the FFC, please be sure to visit our website and click on the support link. Even a single dollar helps, and for those of you who are already patrons, thank you again for your generosity.
Welcome to Focus Fire Chat. Explore together.
Welcome back for episode 115 of Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on January 5th, 2018 over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. Big shout out to our live chat here. Thank you so much for joining us for an evening back in the tower. This is your host, Blue Crew 86. Alongside me, we have the man who has been said to have the voice of a flower and the connection of a bad Vex Gate network. Okay, what is your name this evening?
My name is Savathun, and my oath is life. I vow this on my right eye. Or is it the middle eye? I don't know.
It's the right eye.
I was right.
You were right.
33.33%.
Repeating, of course. Repeating indefinitely.
Oh, God.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's about right.
Oh, man. All right. Well, we also have our favorite Gunter, the one and only Green-Eyed Music Lover. Green, hope you're doing well. Looking forward to tonight's chat.
I am. I'm looking forward to some more Books of Sorrow talk and some spinning, because I think we're going to be doing a little bit of spin foil tonight.
I have an answer to one of your questions.
What
actually.
are you talking
I actually
about?
found the answer to one of your questions, and I'm very excited about it.
That's because you are Blurix, and your truth is understanding.
Oh, God. Are we going back to that joke?
It didn't. Does it have to do with a certain tweet thread that we got tagged in earlier today? Because if that's the case, I know which one you're going to bring up.
No. I'm not remembering which tweet thread we got caught in the other day. I've gotten caught in a lot of tweet threads.
Yeah, sorry.
Recently. No. I'm absolutely. I'm like. No, not that tweet thread. That's one of them.
That's my favorite one ever.
I know that is. I think you've mentioned
Epic.
that like at least once an hour.
It's epic.
I love it.
But we also have with us the grizzly bearded lore master himself, Beard Grizzly. Beard, how are you doing tonight? You still with us in the waking world?
What is up? How does... Hang on. We're dealing with cosmic law tonight, right? So I don't have to worry about which way is up or down.
Right.
I can just allow myself to kind of figure out what that is later on. That's just stipulation. Yeah.
Have I explained frackwards to you?
Have what?
Have I explained frackwards to you? It's a direction. I'll catch you in post show.
Okay.
Get you in post show.
Oh, man. Well, I know we're looking forward to diving into the discussion. Let's run through our standard intro notes and then get right into it. Our topic for this week's chat is going to be a look at the Hive siblings. Before we jump into that, however, I do have a few housekeeping notes to run through. In our last chat, we discussed the Books of Sorrow. If you ever miss an episode and would like to catch up, please be sure to check out the new FocusFireChat.com for archives, articles, and links to the other aspects of Focus Fire Chat. If you don't mind, please give us some feedback on iTunes to let us know how we're doing, as well as helping us continue to grow. As many of you already know, Focus Fire Chat is a cross-community gathering, where the intent is to offer a week-long, in-depth view of a particular subject from within the lore of Destiny and other games. This chat begins every Tuesday morning and runs until the following Tuesday, with topics decided by the group via a poll that begins every Friday and ends on the Tuesday morning of the new chat. Every Friday at around 10 p.m. Central, we get together to stream a recap of the previous week's chat for those who are unable to participate. Please be sure to also give some support to the other podcasts in the Guardian Radio Network, links of which can be found on our show notes or on our new website. Podcasts focused on Destiny include Guardian Radio, the first and longest running Destiny podcast on the net, Guardian 1, a Destiny group dedicated to Guardians helping Guardians and discussing current Destiny news and happenings, Ghost and Echoes, a collection of the Destiny audio grimoire from Destiny 1, and the network's newest edition, This Guardian Life, which is a podcast from the casual Guardians perspective that highlights all Guardians, large and small. We also have a non-Destiny focused podcast, The Enthusiast Life, which is a podcast that discusses a wide range of fun topics from within the entertainment world. Our next chat is going to be a discussion on Exodus Black. Be sure to weigh in on the poll this weekend to let us know what topic you want to discuss after that. Links to that poll can be found on either Twitter at FocusFireChat or within our Discord server. I've asked Green to put together a high-level summary of tonight's topic, and this is what she had to say.
The Hive siblings have represented the continuous struggle for power, but in the kind of loving, I'm gonna try and kill you and make sure you're the best you can be kind of way. Since we went over the Books of Sorrow last week, this week the major questions are, did or does Savathun take on the mantle of Oryx as the Taken Queen? Also, what is the nature of the, air quote, resurrection of each sibling after being killed by the other? Where is Xivu Arath at the moment? Does Savathun still have the worm? Where did the Tablets of Ruin go? So many questions, and so little time.
Before we jump into the information and thoughts that the community had about the Hive siblings, though, let's look at this week's Lost Lore. So, draw closer. Yes, let me tell you why you should not fear Willbreaker, the Sword of Oryx. This is kind of what we were going to talk about for the Lost Lore, because a lot of people have, in Destiny 2, are very familiar with swords as far as player options, but some of those people might not be familiar with where exactly the sword kind of came from in regards to lore and within the history of Destiny. And this was actually back in the Taken King. And as promised, I will be mentioning Shax because he is pretty big on this whole process.
Swords!
Shaq loves his swords. So the first thing about Willbreaker is that each of the Hive siblings that we will be talking about later kind of was associated with a weapon of their kind of that personified them. Oryx had a sword. Xivu Arath had a hammer, and Savathun had a scalpel. And yes, we will be coming back to that because I really want to play Rift Ball. So Bungie, if you're listening to this, that's completely okay with me, because hammers and Bungie have a special place in my heart. But first the question is, what exactly is so important about Willbreaker? And as far as the Hive is concerned, swords hold a very, very, very high place in their understanding of basically everything. You see this within the very kind of religion that they have with the logic of the sword. And the interesting thing about Willbreaker is that its blade is not dulled by age or by use. Each death it trades for life hones its edge. It basically gives it more what they call weight and gravitas, and even an insistence within the vortex of its own totality. This is basically meaning that as Willbreaker is used more and more, it actually is becoming sharper. It becomes more deadly. And this is something that a lot of the Ascendant Blades kind of seem to do within the Hive. The other thing with Willbreaker is, according to the Grimoire card Dark Drinker, which is over on Ishtar, if you want to read a really good description of the sword, To be taken in Willbreaker's grasp is to know true bliss. That is to be simplified, that is to be reduced to one's most basic level, shedding all higher order thoughts of fear or duty or selflessness. That is to feel only pain. It basically reduces you to the most basic level of existence. And that is the point, that is the final shape that it is trying to bring you to. So that's kind of the lost lore with Willbreaker. It was the Sword of Oryx that we then, once we finished the Taken King, we actually took the heart of it. We took a shard, the crystal from that. Well, actually, we didn't. Our good friend Eris Morn did. And then through the assistance of Shax, who apparently, we found out, was very well versed in sword crafting, which is a form of forging a blade, and was apparently a very, very proficient sword master. And he did take back his raise lighter, so he thanks you for that, Beard. He really does appreciate you giving him back his raise lighter.
Give me it back, you freaking horn thief.
I miss some.
But basically through the process of a really, really fun farming run at a given, depending on what element you chose.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Not all of us have the RNG that you have, so it may have been fun.
Teen Scout.
Oh my god! Well, okay.
You didn't need King Scout for farm running. I mean,
no,
Yeah,
but
you did. It
not in
showed you.
D1. Not in D1. Everyone
Yes,
had
it did.
farm runs. What?
No, I'm saying if you had Keen Scout, it highlighted.
Oh yeah, but I mean, you didn't need it if you knew if you knew the element run that you were running on. They were always the same.
Well, maybe I didn't know that, Blue. So Keen
Oh,
Scout
my
made it easier.
Not well. The thing. Okay, so you have to find all the things, but also, didn't you have to do the war sats? Wasn't that one of them?
Yeah, but how many? There weren't that many war sets, were there? That
There was
honestly,
on Mars,
honestly,
and it was for,
There was a few.
yeah, war set. The war set wasn't the thing that I remember. The thing that I remember was like 30 minutes of running around Mars.
yeah, for you, I had to run around for 3 hours. Anyway, I'm not salty about blue ideas.
Pins did
for
show
Dark
me.
Drinker.
Pins showed me a really good trick on that one. Actually, the double dip trick.
And he said, "Don't show green."
Oh yeah. War sets were for the sleeper sim.
Okay.
But anyways, so basically what we had to do, we actually found out quite a bit about the different elements of the different planets, with the rust iron being actually associated with engrams, the helium filaments, and the what was the other one?
The spoil.
Yeah,
I know we want to call it spin foil.
I know I want to call it spin foil, but it's not spin foil. It's I just blanked, but it's it grew. It's like basically glimmery stuff that grows from Golden Age tech.
Primarily like warheads.
Spin metal. Thank you, Charmed Pluto. Spin metal. But yeah, so you basically had to collect different pieces or like essences of those materials, and you brought them back to Shax. And Shax actually was pretty much the person who took Willbreaker's crystal and then reforged it with whatever element that you brought him, and then gave you one of 3 of the new swords, which was the introduction of swords to Destiny. And those swords were Dark Drinker, which is the only one I really cared about, and then Raise Lighter, and then I can't remember the Boltcaster. Wasn't that yours? You had Boltcaster.
Boltcaster was mine. It's the only one I had.
It was
Dark Drinker was the one that I had.
Lightning Frisbee.
Yes, it was the only ranged
for the
one.
win.
Only ranged one.
Oh, so
you could throw them across the map. It was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That sound was terrifying too in PvP.
that was the Tink Tink of swords.
It was.
Tick, tick.
But as far as like the background of this, Eris taking that piece, because it's a very crystalline looking piece from his Oryx's sword, which granted he wasn't technically the Taken King at that point. He was just the Hive King. He didn't take himself until right afterwards, right?
Well, yeah. He was still like
at the end of that fight.
At the very end of the fight. Yeah, he took himself at the end of that fight, but he was still the Taken King prior to that, because he became the Taken King when he defeated Akka and communed with the Deep.
It's just that the sword itself having kind of a chrysalis form inside of it that we kind of mine from the sword after it kind of shatters everywhere. It's just a very interesting.
Yeah, it was very similar to the Quack Quack gun, the Touch of Malice. He didn't rise to the challenge.
Oh yeah. The only gun in any first-person shooter that has fallen on hard times and has become homeless.
Quack 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 quack
quack quack quack quack quack quack, and it's wearing a poncho.
I thought we were. I thought we were somehow making a duck hunt joke with that. I just went over.
You feel like you're playing Duck Hunt.
Yeah, you do. With Touch of Malice. It sounds like a duck.
I never got it.
You never...
I got to the last part of that mission where you have to beat them in... Oh god, what was it? It was on the Mars base where the area fills up with the poison.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about Reddit. No?
Wow.
Well.
Shots fired.
All right, then. I guess this is why we're not liked. Well, then.
Just the slow roll of the realization of what he just said across the team.
Oryx Taken Realm is now known apparently as Reddit.
It's Reddit.
I think that's what we've just explained within the last minute or two of this conversation. This is a good start, guys. We're going everywhere.
This is where Blue needs like a pre-rolled thing that's like the thoughts of Justin thing.
I might clip that. Oh my god.
This statement brought to you by audible.com.
Truly Amazon has blessed us.
Oh, that is awesome.
So, yeah, and the other weapon that we actually got from Oryx that kind of had that same feel was Touch of Malice. And then we also see that Oryx is not the only one to the thought of a crystalline structure storing something is not unique to Oryx, because that's pretty much what we interrupted with Crota. When Ghost showed that he can precisely carve a rectangular 3D shape out of a crystal. Did that bug anyone else? That really bugged me when he did that. He transmatted a perfect square. I was like, what? How?
I just felt like they ripped the polygon portion straight from that model and were like, here you go. We really didn't take the time for this, so there. Okay, thanks.
Speaking of like the crystal-like structure, that actually can send us right to the next section where we're talking about the other siblings, because we have another instance where they're using crystals again.
Oh, wasn't there a song that was involved?
Well, there's a song involved with one of them, with the big one with the adventure, but there's also the void crystals too with the stripe.
Right, that's Savathun's song. The void crystals was the one I was referring to.
There's a siren song where there's a giant crystal, and I expected to see Savathun inside of it. It's an adventure on Titan. Did you not do your adventures?
I probably wasn't paying attention.
Oh,
I was more
like it.
That's actually really possible. I was actually trying to find the adventure that had the fallen captain with the Easter egg ending. So if it was a knight, if it was a hive, I was just shooting them before they could do anything.
Bad ending or bad neighbors or whatever.
Enemy of my
Did
enemy.
you let him live? Did you let him live?
The captain? Yeah, he was super friendly.
I smeared him.
Well, that was rude.
Well, he was the hive captain.
No, not the hive cat.
Fallen.
Oh, the fallen captain. Whatever. I don't care. Listen, I was counting arms and eyes, and anyone without the standard number was getting it.
Oh, Sethona, you may not be as sharp as your predecessor.
But you are as xenophobic. But yeah, okay, so let's talk about the siblings a little bit. When we talk about hive siblings, we are speaking of the pretty much the triumvirate of the hive, which is Oryx, Savathun, and Xivu Arath. Where do you guys want to start with? Do you want to start at the beginning with them, or do you want to start with your questions, Green, that you kind of posed in the summary? How would you guys like to go about chatting with this?
Well, as far as the three sisters go, we kind of introduced them last week with all of the Books of Sorrow talk. Mm-hmm. As far as their history and everything, we didn't specifically go into their vows and what that means, but we talked a lot about how the worm gods kind of interacted with them as far as the creation of the hive. We could do like a brief overcasting idea for them, talking about like how they're that is a long sorry. Blue is very good at distracting me via chat.
Mission accomplished.
Yes. And then, anyway. Let's go over just like a basic summary of them and what their big thing is. I know, right. Phrasing is terrible tonight.
Is phrasing still a thing? Phrasing. So the first thing that I think is important to talk about when you talk about the siblings, especially, is the fact that they go through transformations, and Oryx especially goes through a pretty big one. And that is that the form that we kind of know them in their current state is not actually their original one. Oryx was originally Arash, Savathun was originally Sethona, and Xivu Arath was originally Zero, or Cairo, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Yeah, you can also pronounce it Cairo. So it just depends on if you want to go with a Greek pronunciation of it, which really bugs me. But
I'd say gyro.
Gyro, yeah. You never. God. Anyways,
shy like a Z, ZH, like gyro.
Kylo. Anyway.
Kylo Ren. Okay. Anyways. So originally what basically kind of set this whole ball in motion was the betrayal of Tau or Tax or whatever, Taox, so however you want to pronounce her name, where she basically betrayed the entire Osmium court, and that led to basically the entire court's downfall. And the three siblings were I guess lucky enough to escape. And in the process of escaping, they made an oath, and each one of them took actually a different aspect. And part of this, and this is important because this is actually part of what would later lead up to what was called the Worm Pact with the Worm Gods. Orash swore to explore and to understand. Sethona was swore to bring life back to the Osmium court, and Xivu or Cairo or Kylo Ren, however you want to call him, was basically about vengeance. And they swore this, and then they found the worm gods, and then they were introduced to the concept of the worm, which would allow them to actually live longer than krill, which they were krill at the time, usually did. Because at that point, as krill, they only would live roughly 10 years. So the biggest fear for them was that they would not live long enough to actually fulfill their vengeance or fulfill their promises and oaths. So when they were given basically the Faustian bargain that Yule, the honest worm, offered them, that was a big component in what they kind of saw with it was a degree of immortality. A big part of that pact was that they would take on a worm. They would actually become infested with a worm, and that worm would feed off of their energies, which is basically light. They fed it light. And the biggest thing was that they had to stay true to their nature. And again, so going back to that oath that they made, that was understanding for Orash, life for Sathona, and then vengeance for Zero, Cairo. Now, shortly after that, we actually see the introduction of the metamorphosis that the krill were kind of already known to undergo. And there were 3 degrees of morphs that were available to the krill. The first one, and the most important one, was the king morph, which is what Orash kind of took on. At first, Orash actually transformed into, or took on, a different name of Oryx, which meant long thought. But then would later become Oryx, the Taken King, through a very convoluted process of actually killing one of the gods. Sathona imbibed what was known as the mother jelly and became a hive or a krill mother, which is very similar to the wizards that we see in the game today. And she became Savathun. And then Cairo actually took a night morph and became Xivu Arath. The big point here is that when Arax became Oryx, she changed to a he. So she became the Taken King, and the king morph is a male metamorphosis. Which just, I don't really have anything other than that's important. A lot of people find that interesting. Apparently he can shed wings, which was kind of a weird thing for me to read. It still is.
The fact that he grew wings?
He had wings. He had wings, and then when later in the Books of Sorrow, so it seemed like he had wings, because then when it said when we actually see him kind of playing with his wings, it mentions that he's trying out a variant of wings, like a better form of wings. So he's wrestling. It's like he's wrestling with his worm. Basically, he's molding himself again. Which one of the worm gods' ear is actually kind of connected to. I don't want to say abominations, but experimentation on living things. That's where we get Golgroth from.
Adaptations.
Yeah, perverted evolutions. Genetic manipulation, which we see a little bit with Savathun. Actually, we see a lot of that with Savathun, and we see it a lot with the brood of Hive that is on Titan in Destiny 2. The Ghost feels very comfortable talking about it. It's one of the funniest lines is seeing a ghost shudder. So
Justin,
yeah. Sorry, Justin. Or Seth Ona.
No worries. Yeah, no, I just wanted to kind of interject the concept that male and female, like the archetypes, the designation's cool to put on the Hive characters, but the archetype of male and female within our reality doesn't really apply because, correct me if I'm wrong, but the reproduction of the Hive, it's not quite as black and white as it is with us.
Yes,
with
right.
the division of the sexes, and there's a whole archetype of what a male is and what a female is, and you try to apply that to the Hive model. It seems crazy for us that Arash could choose a morph that then led to a sex change. And I know there are animals that, actually can do that in our world, but it's not that crazy when you think of how arbitrary all that becomes when procreation is not something necessarily requires one of each.
The Hive don't really seem to have an actual sex. We just assign those pronouns just because it's easier to understand some of the concepts behind it. At least that's kind of more of my interpretation of it. The male and female aspect, a mother is a female in our way of thinking. So just say that the Hive are super distinct binary, it's not exactly correct. So I totally agree with you, Justin, that they are just, it's not easily defined. It's a good way to help describe and help relate to what we can describe, but it's not exactly right.
Yeah, I was gonna actually type in chat, but real quick, procreation with the Hive is definitely not what you would see in a mammal. It's more of an amphibious, which kind of makes sense with the krill kind of being the word that we use for them.
Egg sacs.
Yes, they spawn. They don't really give. It doesn't seem, and this is again kind of going out on a limb here, but it does not seem that they have live births. They spawn. This is where you see like the mother morph kind of being the procreator. When Oryx decides to, I guess, breed. I don't really know what proper term would that be for, but when he decides to start creating offspring, he actually goes and basically looks for mates to spawn. And you see this with the sisters, or the daughters of Oryx. He actually splits the larva of them in half. And then when it survives, he's like, oh, okay, I guess you deserve to continue living because by the sword logic, you should die, but you fought and survived. But yeah, so
neither live a creepy day.
Yeah. In chat, real quick. Sorry, in chat. Yes, there is in regards to the irony of this being around the holiday time. Yes, there is a connection that I found with the Yule log and Yule the honest worm. If you go back to, I can't remember which Book of Sorrows episode it was. I think it was the third one. It might have been the first one. I actually talked about this a little bit back then. But there is a connection within the tradition of the Yule log at the beginning of the beginning of this tradition. It was customary for the king to make a toast, and the toast consisted of 3 parts that actually kind of align somewhat closely to the oaths that the Hive siblings take. There are a few. There's a slight variation, I believe, in the vengeance component, but the king does have 3 oaths that are traditionally part of the Yuletide tradition, and it is often a tradition that was around a pole that would then become the part of the Yule log. So yes, there is kind of an odd little connection there. But yeah, I did see chat kind of making the joke about the honest log. Yes. Yule is an honest log.
Interesting. Okay, so we talked about the worm pack a little bit. What about one of the most powerful worm packs, the fact that Oryx ended up killing one of them and taking their power?
Yeah, so this was at the point where Arax or Arash or Orash, however you want to pronounce it, kind of was at their wits. The siblings were at their wits' end because they basically were reaching a ceiling. They were hitting a ceiling on the capacity for them to gather enough light to feed their worm. And Oryx basically figured out that part of the sword logic is that you have to prove your right to exist. And this the Worm Pact flew in the face of that, because when the Worm Pact was made with the siblings, they were given a worm. And instead they should have taken it. And so in order to kind of rectify this and to kind of come to a resolution, they basically came together and in Oryx's throne world, he killed, or I guess, I can't remember, anyways, Oryx killed Xivu and Savathun. And through the logic that was gained through their deaths, was actually able to confront one of the worm gods, Akka, the god of secrets, or the worm of secrets, and overthrow Akka. And through overthrowing Akka, Oryx gained the ability to commune with the deep, which basically leads to another thing that I knew you're going to ask, is the Tablets of Ruin. The Tablets of Ruin are the supposed inscription of the process of communing with the deep that Oryx has. After the overthrowing of Akka, Oryx took on the name Oryx, and then went into the deep and communed with it and learned how to take. And that's where you actually see the I hesitate to say birth of, but the beginning of the Taken King under the name of Oryx. It should be, the important distinction here is that the Tablets of Ruin are not actually instructions on taking. They are actually just supposed instructions on how to commune with the deep, potentially the Formless One. We see a couple mentions of that figure at this point, with the I believe it's the Worm God's Boon. So that is actually where you see Akka, which then leads to the creation of the Dreadnought, and one of Justin's favorite holidays in Destiny's universe, Eversion Day, when you turn everything inside out.
That is my favorite. We all must wear our underwear on the outside of our pants. Eversion Day. We decided this. It's tomorrow.
This is like one of the longer jokes that we've had.
I don't know.
It's because Eversion Day. So Eversion Day is the day that Oryx created the Dreadnought, and the reason why he created the Dreadnought was basically he got tired of his sisters trying to kill him all the time, and so in order to kind of protect himself from that, he basically took his throne world, his Ascendant realm, and shoved it inside a scrimshawed piece of Akka's corpse, and that created the Dreadnought. So it was like this really weird, and then as a holiday, because this is the day that we created the Dreadnought, he named it Eversion Day, when the Hive celebrate it by turning things inside out. Because that sounds fun. That's how you celebrate things in the Hive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So
are we going to have a flash mob of people with their underwear on the outside of their pants?
Didn't we decide on a day? Didn't we decide on a day, Justin?
We did. And I can't remember what it is, so we're going to decide it on another day. Let's do a poll.
You do a Twitter poll.
I'll do a Twitter poll. I've never done that before.
You should do that. It's a thing. The thing that I have a problem with this whole wearing your underwear on the outside type thing is I grew up with brothers. Guys' underwear does not look good when it comes off. And unless you're putting on a clean pair of underwear on the outside, I don't want to see it.
It worked for Superman.
Fred from Big Hero 6 has a few theories on how to best wear underwear.
Yeah, that's true. So, okay, this kind of leads us into some of the questions that I had in the summary.
Cool.
Starting with the Tablets of Ruin.
Mm-hmm.
Where are they, and do you need them to actually take? Oh, yeah, I figured, Blue. Go for it. If you that chatter, that chatter in the background, guys, was Blue typing in, which is our I want to talk next thing 4 times in a row.
So the question of where the
How many
tablets are.
letters are in N?
Well, you see, it goes like this.
Beard, do you want to take this one?
Go right ahead, because I have a feeling that
there is
remember
one
that
letter
dueling
in
dragons thing.
There is one in. But no,
yes.
So the Tablet of Ruins, I kind of picture the Tablet of Ruins as an artifact that doesn't actually hold what it seems to hold. Much like, so the reason I say this is you have to remember that the Books of Sorrow are religious texts. They're scripture for the Hive. And we also have supposedly Savathun kind of graffitiing them with about how they are full of lies.
The Books of Sorrow.
The Books of Sorrow. Part of the reason I think that this is just me personally kind of connecting a couple weird threads here, but one of the things, and coming from a D&D background and just a general assumption of a wizard spell book, which is kind of what the Tablets of Ruin are, if in a way, is a way for Oryx to summon the deep, which is when you see, which is how we created Golgoroth, is he summoned the deep and it embodied inside the ogre abomination. I view the Tablets of Ruin as exactly that. They're a summoning guide or a spell book for Oryx, and that means that even if someone had the tablets, they wouldn't be able to use them because they're not Oryx. Oryx is it unlocks the capability within Oryx, and it's a summoning ritual for him. Because remember, again, Worm Gods taught the Hive how to summon the powers of the deep through rituals. And then when Oryx defeated Akka, he gained the ability to commune with the deep, and then wrote that process onto a Tablet of Ruin. So there's a couple components there that if you aren't Oryx, you're lacking. If you have a Tablet of Ruin, you don't have, and the number one part of that is the knowledge, the logic of defeating Akka. Then there's also the fact that Oryx is supposedly the one who wrote the Books of Sorrow. So what better way to kind of misguide people than to say, oh yeah, these tablets, they teach you all the stuff about how to do the things that I do, when it seems that Oryx is the only one who is able to innately do what he does. And you see that with when he gives Savathun Koria, Blade Transform. She doesn't really understand what that is, and she even asks, is this something that's going to blow up in my face? And he's like, no, it's just a Vex that I left some of its will, and you figured you'd have fun playing with it. And she asked flat out, will it give me the logic to commune with the deep such as you do? So we already see Savathun and Xivu, through their love for Oryx, are always trying to kill Oryx. That's kind of the love is war concept that the Hive have. But Savathun is actually striving to commune with the deep. And so when we also see her graffiti the Books of Sorrow as being full of lies, I kind of take it as that she has already tried to get the Tablets of Ruin and kind of has found that they're worthless to her because they don't make sense to her.
I disagree that Oryx is the only one who can take.
I'm not okay. Yes. And let me clarify. I don't think that ultimately in the end that he is, but I think he is the only one that the Tablets of Ruin will allow to commune with the deep. Not that. And then also to clarify there, I am not saying that he is the only one who can commune with the deep. He is the one that basically imagine the Tablets of Ruin as a spell book for Oryx in the traditional sense. A spell book in a lot of the fantasy presentations is only understandable to the wizard who penned it. Any other really magical user usually can't really understand without really studying and really, really kind of getting in the head of the creator of that spell book. And even then it's very difficult in most cases. That spell book is a very personal artifact that the wizard in question uses as a focus to actually cast the spell. I kind of view the tablets as a similar similar creation for the purpose of communing with the deep.
If that's the case, then why would Oryx fear having them stolen?
I don't think he feared having them stolen. He wore them around he wore around his waist. He didn't. I would argue that he never feared to have them stolen. I think he used them as a diversion. People were focusing on the tablets and he would take care of them, while they were distracted.
I hate the Books of Sorrow because I know exactly what I want to quote and I can't remember the card that it's in. Mm-hmm. But there is something that I seem to recall where the sisters did try to reach for the tablets to try to take them. It may have just been Xivu who didn't know any better at that point. And
right.
That at that point, that could have been the idea that, yes, it was something like it was just something like a diversion. But then I would end up calling forth the Golgoroth Tablet of Ruin and asking why the significance of that is just so there.
Well, and I actually looked into the Golgoroth situation, and hang on, let me see if I can pull it up, because Golgoroth actually doesn't have a Tablet of Ruin.
Well, I'm going to say his
Golgoroth has a tablet. Yeah, it is a tablet, but it's not a Tablet of Ruin. Hang on, sorry, because I thought the same thing, Beard, earlier today, and I was like, okay, then why is Golgoroth basically being told to guard this tablet thing? Hang on. So from the Grimoire card Golgoroth, he basically speak to the heart with burrowing things. The burrowing things will strengthen the heart. You, Absol, you teach the new flesh out of the old. Zol issued you to eat. So Zol is one of the worm gods. He issued Golgoroth to eat us. The new flesh will be testament. O ear, decree the shape of this new thing. Judge its testament to the last truth. This new shape is Golgoroth. So at this point, they basically request from Ear the knowledge to reshape the weapon that Zol created to eat them into Golgoroth. Crota rose to petition, Father, cut the shapes into a tablet and give me the tablet. I will bear it in battle and tithe one side of my sword to you. Oryx cut the shapes into a tablet, but he guarded the shapes. He set the tablet in Golgoroth, where the new flesh grew as Ear decreed it. Like ice on a stone, he rebuked Crota. From the temples of his son, from the left of his blade in battle, he demanded tithings of violence. To Oryx, the first navigator, who directed the movements of great masses. So the way I read that, and guys, correct me here if you guys are reading this differently, but the tablet that is within Golgoroth, or the tablet that is behind Golgoroth when you fight him, that is not a tablet of ruin. That is just simply a tablet in which Oryx bound Ear's decree for Golgoroth's growth, so that Zol would not eat them through Golgoroth.
So what if the tablets are just, quite frankly, just the names of the various worm gods inscribed and able to be called upon? Because
like true names?
Like true names.
I could see that, but again, I'm going back to the thing that still works, but Oryx would still be the only one to use them.
But is he? Because we know there's a Minotaur that's been taken during D2.
No. Okay. But my argument here is that I'm not saying, so the Tablets of Ruin do not mean, the Tablets of Ruin have nothing to do with the power to take. The Tablets of Ruin are literally the ability to commune with the deep. That's it. Like, they give him the ability to directly commune with the deep and with potentially the Formless One itself. That is all that the tablets do. The ability to take was a gift that was given to Oryx after he communed with the deep through the Tablets of Ruin. So they will allow the petitioner to petition for the power to take. So you can request that you get given that power, or that you take that power, however you want to phrase it. But the Tablets of Ruin themselves do not imbibe the user with the ability to take. They simply are an instruction manual to talk to the deep.
The only thing I would counterpoint on that is that in the one Grimoire card that I just got done reading last night, I'm gonna pull it up because I can't remember the exact title again because sleepy. It was when Oryx was deciding basically to regrow his wings, and he was talking with Irhalak and Iranuk. He found them killing each other, and he was worried that they were trying to enter the place where the deep was.
Right, yeah.
So in that respect, that makes me question that statement in that can others end up getting there so long as they are more powerful?
Also, if you could just request to have the Taken power, any of the Taken could theoretically take that power and become a Taken if there are sufficiently enough power behind them.
Right.
But that's very weird to think that any Taken could be a Taken King. It doesn't even have to be the two sisters. It could be Kuria herself. If the Vex, now that would... And yeah, it could. If the way that you're saying it, it could be any of the Taken who has some sort of will can claim the Taken power.
But that argues... Right, Korea does, and I can see Korea as being a leader of the Taken themselves, but the thing is that Korea is still not as powerful as Savathun or Xivu Arath. And remember, it took the sword logic gained from killing both siblings and Oryx's own power, and the power gained by killing an actual worm god to even allow him to walk into the deep. So, I mean, if you can manage all those milestones, yeah, you probably could go talk to the deep. But those are pretty powerful milestones, right? You would have to kill 3 hive, basically hive old elder gods, and then the elder god, one of the elder gods above those elder gods, and then you could say, hey, can I have an audience with you? And even then, you probably, you also run the risk of not being given what you're requesting. I mean, the ability to commune does not mean that you command. It means you are requesting, you are petitioning. And yeah, so Beard, that was verse 4:8, the partition of death. He said he was afraid that Irhalak and Iranuk were trying to go into the deep where only the tablets of ruin allowed Oryx to go. And that's when that's the fun thing. Hang on, sorry, reading chat real quick. Yeah, so yeah, sorry. Real quick, that's the entire point of sword logic, is to prove that you are the strongest, to prove that you have the right to exist, and through defeating everything in your path. Oryx, you see that with regards to the Taken Knight card when he rebukes the knights of the Hive for summoning the wall, the shield, and he's like, no, you are not embracing the totality of your violence. You defend when you should be attacking. If you can defeat all the, I mean, what I'm saying is, the tablets are simply a path. It's not the only path by any means, but it possibly is the only path that Oryx is aware of, because it's a very difficult path. It's a difficult process to get to the deep, to get to the proper and the darkest levels of the deep. And Beard, yeah, I think the argument that the tablets of ruin are useless, I wouldn't say that, because again, I just view them as a personal talisman for Oryx. So for Oryx, the tablets of ruin are not useless. They're the focal point of his power. They're the very important aspect of his summoning process. But for another Ascendant Hive, they don't have the connection to these power source that they do for Oryx, because he scribed them, he created them, he knows the logic of their shape, he is the geometer of their entire existence. So, as far as that, I don't think that the tablets would do the same thing for Savathun or even Xivu Arath. Does that make sense?
I just worry that by that line of logic, that makes Oryx literally the end-all be-all as far as the most powerful of the Hive. And
Well,
I actually am more... I am
Okay.
more afraid of Savathun, quite frankly, because she's proven herself to be more cunning and devious even throughout the Books of Sorrow, which is literally Oryx's text, even though there's some graffiti-ish type things in there. The fact that she tricks Crota into cutting the wound and everything, I'm more afraid of her. And if the Tablets of Ruin are literally just a old spell book that only good old Oryx can use to commune with whatever, I still don't know if I agree with that interpretation, just because
that's fine.
I feel that there's a little bit more to it than just that. But Savathun is somebody I am more afraid of because of she does not have to kind of brute force her way through things. She uses others to do it.
Right. Well, but that's the seat of her power. Just the same as Oryx's seat of power is inscribing and understanding and studying and exploring. Just the same as Xivu Arath's seat of power is just flat out war, slaughter, strong arming. Again, I would refer back to the weapons that kind of are personifications of them. You know, Savathun is a scalpel. Xivu Arath is a hammer. There's a massive difference between the two. But then in between the two, Oryx is there with a sword. And it's kind of, you know, the sword is kind of a weird hybridization of a hammer and a scalpel. It's able to do delicate work. Not as delicate as a scalpel, but it is able to do delicate work. But it's also able to hammer away at things. So, you know, Xivu approaches things with the blunt force of the hammer. Savathun approaches things with the deceptive nature of the scalpel, cutting around things, not necessarily going directly to the source, but cutting around it and weakening the sides and then tearing it out. And depending on the type of warfare that you're looking at, that might be a more effective style of warfare. And again, I would say that just because the Tablets of Ruin in and of themselves only are keyed to Oryx, that doesn't negate the ability of Savathun or Xivu Arath. It just means that they're going to have something different. They're going to have a different process, which actually completely makes sense because their spheres of influence are completely different. Right? I mean, Savathun I would see more as manipulations of living creatures through the experimentation and evolution and, you know, all that. Xivu Arath is going to be more, you know, I've seen a lot of people compare Xivu to the Cabal, which I still am kind of on the fence on for that one. But Xivu is going to be the more just straight up overwhelm and slaughter. That's why they work so well together, is because each one of them covers the other's weakness. And they kind of play off each other's strengths. You see that within the aspect of both when Oryx killed Savathun and Xivu Arath to gain the logic to go to Akka, and then also when he redefined them and brought them back. And you even see that when Xivu Arath redefined Oryx to bring him back, because Xivu recognized that while Savathun didn't want to bring Oryx back, Xivu recognized that she was stronger when Oryx was there to complement her than she was when he was trapped in the deep. So the fact that tablets are keyed to Oryx, I would argue, does not by any means negate the power of either of the other siblings. Now, given the fact that the Books of Sorrow that we have are basically for Oryx's brood, they're scripture for Oryx. Yeah, I kind of argue that it would make sense that they make Oryx out to be the end all be all. But in reality, I really don't think that's the case at all. I mean, you see plenty of examples of Savathun through the trickery that she has just topple entire civilizations.
What I will give is no, I don't think that Xivu Arath would be, I guess, quite as interested to collect something like the books.
I don't think she cares.
Books, the Tablets of Ruin. No, because per that point, she would, like we've said a number of times here, just be a blunt force instrument.
And I mean,
Meanwhile, as established in terms of Savathun, though, she's basically there for the interest or idea, effectively, of, as Green had mentioned, learning from others. And she's okay with taking the time to do so. We're also somewhat familiar, especially with, like, Karaya, Blade Transform, being something that is taken and that has been gifted to Savathun. That opens up a very interesting possibility of understanding the ideas of taking. Further, the biggest thing that we need to also keep in mind is even if it took thousands of years, which granted we don't know exactly the time period where Karaya was handed to Savathun, but we know that it's been thousands of years at least since everything has kind of gone down, if you will, between Oryx showing up with us and possibly Savathun showing up with us as well. Look at what happened with the Saint 14 card and what was actually presented to us recently, where a mind was attuned specifically to Saint 14's light.
Yep.
So in that regard, so long as Savathun has a piece, has a measure to try to understand what the taking is about, at that point, I would feel that she is witty enough that she would be able to run with it.
I agree. I agree completely.
My 2 cents on that one, for
Green,
sure.
Green, I know you.
Green, you had something on, yeah.
Well, my biggest thing is if the whole part of being able to take has to do with being able to call upon the power of the deep and use the power of the deep to take, did Savathun somehow learn how to commune with them?
I think that's what and Beard, I'm gonna step in just a little bit, so correct me here if I put words incorrectly in your mouth, but I think that's what Beard was saying, is that by giving Korea to Savathun, Oryx really did kind of open that up. Like, she is intelligent enough to piece together the know-how to basically jury rig it backwards, reverse engineer the ability to take.
I'd also almost argue, just to put it in more simplified terms, with Oryx gone, quote unquote, because who knows?
Right.
With him gone, at that point, could he just be where de facto leader, quote unquote, is now Savathun?
Right.
Because of the 2 sisters, I would say that Savathun would be the next in line. That's where
or
I
at least she would have the likeliness of being able to more quickly understand how to step in line, whereas Xivu would probably just be like.
But
I'm gonna say
we still had, what was the name of the one taken knight that we had to go down to the Shrine of Oryx and kill? The one that was trying. There was the one that was Alakul, who was locked up because he was trying to the Darkblade, rise. Right, he was trying to rise in rank. Malak. So the fact that Alakul was still a hive, not necessarily taken, wasn't he the one that tried to...
No, I think Malak was taken, wasn't it?
Alakul was the one that was not still hive.
Right, Alakul, Darkblade was the one that had tried to overthrow... Alakul was like a adopted son to Oryx and tried to overthrow him, and as punishment he was thrown into the prison to be reduced to chitin, basically.
And was it Malak that tried to take over the Taken?
Malak was the one that Savathun had embedded inside of Oryx's court to try to basically poison Oryx from within. And then when Oryx found out, instead of just flat out destroying Malak, he actually subverted him and began using him against Savathun by taking him. Like, that's how he subverted her control over him. Because I can't remember. I'm almost thinking that Malak was actually one of Savathun's children, which I don't know why I'm thinking that, but that might be the case.
I don't think we ever actually get any confirmation.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if we ever...
I don't know. It was one strike, and unfortunately, they didn't really exonify.
Yeah,
how
Trigger
he acted.
Trigger in chat is making the point that I think that's correct. Alakul was actually an offspring of Xivu Arath. Malak, let me see real quick. I want to say Malak. Yeah, Malak, pride of Oryx.
Yeah.
Yes, Malak was an offspring of Savathun. It says Malak, cunning Malak, sly and slippery. Savathun begat you to betray me, to poison slowly gnaw within. Liar Malak, you are meant to tithe upon Oryx to feed your maker with secret blight. Your secret is 2 lies. You betrayed your maker, your mother. You hid yourself from Savathun. The tithing does not reach her jaws. Your thrall strength is now acolyte strength. Your acolyte strength is now knight strength. Your thieving pride is known and fed. Malak, listen, I took you from your mother, my sister. Your shape is new. This shape is poison, the shape of secrets. I name you Malak, which means my poison, a prize to taunt Sister Savathun. Steal now for me. So he basically found Malak trying to kind of steal tithing from Oryx to give to Savathun, and then as punishment took Malak to basically display to Savathun, hey, look, I found out your trickery. Justin.
Maybe.
Maybe Justin?
Maybe Justin.
Sorry, gotta push the talk. I'm on the right screens. Give me a moment.
You're good.
Good go.
Sorry about that.
You're good.
No, I was just gonna say, and I kind of had this idea. I wanted to see what y'all thought about it, but the sword logic and the laws of the Hive universe seem to follow a very logical mathematic order.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's very this plus this equals that, and this is greater than that, and this is, you can point to these things and they're universal truths within that universe. Could it be, and I know we're before you got into Malak, you were talking about whether or not maybe Savathun had been best placed to fill the vacancy or the power vacuum left by Oryx. But my question is, could it not be that at present it's unfillable simply because we, going into the Dreadnought and killing Oryx as we did, and not remaining to take up his mantle as the Taken King, we ruined the algorithm. We resulted. It's kind of like when you enter something into a calculator and get an error back. And I don't think Sathona or Savathun or Xivu Arath, for that matter, have managed to remedy that or proof anything that can actually resolve that. Which is why I think we haven't seen another Taken King.
Well, I'm going to say it's all, of course, slapped in the face by the fact that we have a Red Legion that's taken in the PS4 exclusive strike, unfortunately.
And there's a Vex Minotaur that was taken. That
I'm gonna have to take your word for that.
And then also the fact that so here's another problem, to kind of pile on with that, is that you have instances of taking.
Well, that's the thing.
Which I'm sorry, but that just bugs me.
Yeah, but we're pointing it to, and I would poke at the adventure where the Vex are being taken.
Right, that's the one I'm talking about.
Slowly, yeah. But I think that falls into an aired willingness, I think, is the best way that I think Asher Mir kind of sums that up in a way. But the idea that we haven't seen a new king, I think that's proper, but it's just a matter of understanding more than it is anything else. That was the that's been the discussion for like half of like what we've been talking about here. Like, how important are the tablets of ruin for everything? And I think at this point, it's Savathun was clever enough to know that she didn't need to be around Oryx anymore, and she broke away from him. At that point,
and jumped
like,
in a
there
black
is
hole.
no, yeah, and
I love that temper tantrum.
yeah, and is still somehow around us, which I want to know how.
But we can agree that Savathun is likely the one in charge of the Taken at this point because of the Herald of Savathun.
Or Karaya is with
Right,
Savathun at the helm.
Yeah.
I would. That's at least the way I'm viewing it.
Well, and also, sorry,
it's technicality. It's stupid stipulation.
No. I agree with that because we've actually seen Karaya do that. Karaya, the Blade Transform, was the one that instanced itself on two sides of a portal to keep the portal open. So if you're wanting to know how Savathun is still with us, I mean, Karaya has done exactly kind of what would technically be required for her to still be here and control the Taken.
That's true.
I mean, we've seen Karaya do that. That was one of the reasons that Oryx kind of got annoyed with him, or it.
Yeah.
That and it really annoyingly accessed the Ecumen knowledge. And we're not going to go down that hole because that is a really, really annoying one.
I already did.
So let's shift the questions a little bit. Where is Xivu? Where's Xivu Arath?
Oh, God. Xivu is... I think that's...
Like Lightning punching
yeah.
planets.
Yeah.
Punching planets. Just slapping them. Just slapping them around.
You know,
Xivu's like flying at light
the
speed,
face.
just like looking at a planet and going, "Hey, how you doing there?" Pow! And all of a sudden, it's out of orbit. It's gone.
That's what happened to Nessus.
Exactly.
Xivu
Arath is also
problem.
here, confirmed.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Okay, so the resurrection
Yeah. Okay. Here we go.
problem. This is like...
It's not a problem, actually. It's not a problem. It's not.
It's not a... It's...
Because here's the
is.
caveat. Here's the caveat. If you follow the verses of how they discovered throne worlds, they are actually not the first ones to get oddly resurrected. Orash was actually resurrected way in the beginning by the worm gods because that's how they found out about throne worlds. So it was when hang on, let me look up real quick. Verse 2:7. Basically, Orash or Oryx at that time had gotten bored and was like, I don't really care. It was during the war with the Ammonites. And it was just like, I'm not really feeling it. And basically, Oryx had doubts about the Worm Pact. And Savathun had been tasked with bringing her back into the fold. And she managed to do that. And then Oryx actually went to a peace talk with the Ammonites. So she was trying to achieve peace with them instead of just killing them. And Savathun actually basically violated everything about, just war, and used it as an opportunity to eradicate the Ammonite leadership, which included Oryx. So she actually killed her sister at a peace talk, which Savathun apparently did not read the Geneva Convention. You don't do that. But
they don't have
did
shit.
anybody?
They don't have convention.
yes,
Did anybody really read that? Like, come on.
Shh. I have faith. Don't destroy my faith in humanity, dude. No.
Well,
Never mind. No. Yeah. But anyways, so Arax died in the real world, and that's when they were introduced to the concept of the throne world. And then she was brought back. And that's where she introduced then. That's how they basically took the next step in their ability to feed light to the worms, because then they started warring on each other. And that's where you got the love is war, blah, blah, blah. Then, this was millions of years before that existed. Touché, sir. Touché. But then, when Oryx killed Xivu and Savathun, she killed them in her throne world. And in 3.9, in verse 3.9, Xivu actually mentions that they were trapped in their own throne worlds until Oryx defined them to bring them back. So they weren't actually dead. They were just like, it was like this weird halfway point between true death and death. The Hive reinvent the concept of death, basically.
Could it have been a stepping stone, if you will, for the Oversoul before the Oversoul was?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what it was. But the linchpin of the argument is that they weren't in their throne worlds when they were killed, so they got trapped into their throne worlds. And I think that Oryx, by then defining them, because Xivu had to be defined by the slaughter of the Ecumen Council at the Fractal Wreath, which I found interesting. Justin, that was for you. And then Savathun was from the ashes of the Dakua nest that Oryx tricked into slaughtering. Basically, Oryx told the Dakua nest that he was nervous that Xivu was trying to betray him, and he needed their help to kill Xivu. Dakua were so desperate that they jumped on the opportunity, and Oryx turned around and basically backstabbed them, and through that deception defined Savathun for treachery and deception. And so through those definitions of the sisters, that was enough, I guess, impetus to kind of it was enough of a catalyst to help them breach back into the real world.
But is Savathun actually in the real world? Because what was the mission? They're trying to summon her on Titan.
I think Savathun is in the real world. Okay, so this is going to be a timey-wimey explanation, but what's the real world? Summoning Savathun just means that they're calling her into the material plane. But if she's in the Ascendant Realm, I mean, that's like saying Crota, when Crota was summoned at Mare Imbrium, technically he walked upon the physical plane, but he also, when we took him out, we didn't take Crota on until we were in another world. We went through the keyhole and went into his throne world.
Right.
And then,
so you're saying essentially that the resurrection isn't what we would necessarily think of as a physical body resurrection, but more so of a spiritual resurrection into their own throne world, into the Ascendant Realm.
I'm going to say, considering the Hive talk about their deaths so often, which we can actually go ahead and relate that back to their souls, that's, I would say, a little bit closer to it. Yes, it's, but think about like the awakening, I guess, in the Dark Below, where Crota was locked within the crystal. At that point, then they just needed to bring him back from that area, and why we needed to go into his realm, supposedly, to take him out.
Right.
I don't know. That's at least my train of thinking on that.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was like, I'm kind of in agreement. I think they because the other thing is, at the time of the resurrection, for the problematic resurrection, I guess I should say, they didn't have oversouls at that point that we know of. So the throne worlds within the Ascendant Realm that they had were, I would say, more primitive than the ones that they have in current game, or the ones that they have in current lore. So maybe the ability to travel between, I'm kind of going out on a limb on this one, but I mean, like, maybe it was something about the ability to travel between them was required more power than it does in current environment for them. And so that's why he had to define them, which I kind of view the defining of them as like the idea of like a true name summon from like a D&D spell book, or oh god, what's the author's name? Eversea. I can't remember the author who wrote the Eversea series, but there's a lot of
in my mind, yeah.
But yeah, God, that's gonna bug me too. It's got a really interesting magic system, but the magic system is based around true names. So like, if you know something's true name, you have power over it. So by defining it, to its core, you are saying its true name. Xivu Arath is war. So it is through the slaughter of an entire people via war that Oryx defines her and, summons her back by defining her. Savathun is deception, is trickery. So it is through the ultimate trickery that Oryx defines her and brings her back and reintegrates her into the world. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
It does on my end too. I'm just trying to think if there's anything I can add to it, but
I'm gonna go look up the Earthsea because this is gonna.
Yeah, you probably should. I was just thinking of good old Rumpelstiltskin, but
oh yeah, okay, well yeah,
that's pretty good.
Ursula K. Le Guin, yeah, the furthest shore. The Wizard of Earthsea. That's a good series. It's a really easy read, but really interesting very interesting magic system.
Kind of feel bad because I watched Tales of Earthsea that was done by Studio Ghibli, and I kind of liked that one. So
Tales of Earthsea. What is that? That's was that related to that? I'm gonna have to go look at this.
It followed the same kind of idea because it did end in like the naming idea, but that's a very common trope of Studio Ghibli. But
yeah, that's true.
I'm really getting off track now. But no, the whole intent of Hive wizardry as well is always a really fun one to define. And looking back at verse 4:8, with that being the case of the sisters again. Erhalak, Erhanuk, talking basically completely off of like how they bore the oversouls as well. They spoke of it in a very logical and profound sense that the Hive understand as part of their science. But if you end up looking at like what Oryx says almost immediately, he says, "Hey, we're going to end up talking about the backtrack on that a second because my words aren't going too well. If you're going to speak to me like that, you need to use the royal tongue.
Or I'll pin you up for ear to eat.
Yeah. And at least the way that I've always interpreted that was the Hive can talk like we do to make it a little bit more understandable to us, at least to a point. Like, if you told Ikora what Irhalak Irhanuk said, she would probably sit and go, well, that makes a lot more sense other than hiding your death, where it doesn't really make a ton of sense to us. But anyway.
Justin, what about you?
I just keep coming back to the logic and the kind of the mathematical aspect of it. There's a Heinlein quote I really like. It's one man's magic is another man's engineering. Mm-hmm. Supernatural is a null word. And that's the sense you get with the Hive, system in their world. In our world, it's 100% magic. It defies all laws. It bounces between animism and basic supernatural, like our basic run-of-the-mill magic. But in their own world, it's all so very dull. It's just laws being executed, and there's no mystery to them. Like, this plus this always equals that. It's a mathematical formula, and that's what I view what Blue is talking about with the true name summoning. as being, if you could just take out the whole true name part and put an equal sign there. It's this action equaled, and now we have Savathun back. It's very, and words like syllogism and axiom and logic and things like this are just weaved all throughout the books of sorrow. And I don't think it's an accident. I think it's all just an attempt to help create a type of world where this sort of harsh this harsh type of literalism is the defining is the kind of defining law.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Beard, I know you wanted to throw something in there.
It's the concept basically like where you've got two paracausal sides with especially like the stuff like the taking and so on, and then you have us as guardians. It's a mirror paracausal idea, two sides of the same coin,
a dark mirror,
as is a dark mirror, or as is commonly called cosmic law.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole idea behind it. Like, do you help each other, or do you act upon how the universe seems to truly act on everything, where it just does its thing of its own intent, spurned by fusion reactions and so on.
And Green, what about you?
You know who are missing in all of this?
Ooh.
We're missing Little Miss Eris.
The ball bearing upon which things move.
The ball bearing the kind of heiress to a possible that blew my mind the other day in chat. By the way, whoever
the apple of discord.
Gosh, yeah, the goddess of strife.
Yep. Oh,
But
apple of discord.
Yeah, miss that gun.
What
Not
about
really.
Kadamas? Hang on. Sorry.
But Eris kind of an agent of Savathun, even possibly unknowingly. So that's a debate that I've seen quite a bit lately.
Oh, the other debate is Savathun and Marasov connected?
Mm-hmm.
Or is Eris the one who kind of sort of connected the two of them?
Right.
Because Eris was there to help convince Marasov for the attack.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to do equals theories now?
No. Equals theories hurt. No,
Equals theories do hurt.
But real quick, in regards to your mathematic thing, you also see that with Oryx, because he refers when the Vex invade, he's like, I want to be the geometer of these things. So yeah, there's another mathematical term for you to enjoy, Justin.
Maths.
Well, and especially when circles are so important to us now with like what Ikoru's been writing with 12 volumes on circles.
Go look at the Hive summoning rituals. All of them have circles.
They all have circles.
It's almost like there's something with alchemy.
Huh. Yeah. Go
figure
that. Yeah, it's like cosmic law or something. What? Huh? Where?
So, Green, what other questions did we have?
Those were primarily it.
Oh, you said you had a question about Savathun and the worm.
Okay, whether or not Savathun still has the worm is the question from that you did not get into our little rundown of the show. But yeah, that was one of them I asked, and the summary is, does Savathun still have the familiar?
Oh, okay, that makes infinitely more sense. I was like, how would she not have her worm anymore?
No, the familiar.
You're
the
talking
one
about
that
the
started
familiar.
all of it. The one who began the whole problem. We don't have any
No,
kind of
Callus stole it.
instances of it. Did Callus steal it?
No, I don't think he
I was
did.
like, what?
I-
Like, what?
No.
I was like, I don't remember this.
The
I
only
even
reason-
played the raid and I don't remember this.
Shh, I don't know what you're talking about.
Nobody
because-
really remembers the raid, let's be honest.
Guys, everybody needs to ask Blue if he'll do the raid with you. Because he's not done the raid yet. And he really, really, really wants to do the
Blue.
raid, but he's really afraid to
Someone
ask.
in this group is a dirty,
Blue.
dirty liar. And it's not me.
Do the raid with me.
Oh, God.
Justin, you dirty,
The last
dirty liar.
time I did a raid with we're going to talk about that after show. No, because like the reason I was joking about that is Callus's a little temper tantrum against his daughter about how the bone that was his alternate plan, how she stole it. I was like, well, that's convenient. You have a dead white thing that you use as a get out of jail free card too.
Also, the flavor text of the raid weapon, God Conspirator.
Right.
Thanks.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's like, oh no,
Oh no. Who knows?
this one again.
So okay. I think that was. Do we want to talk about? Oh well, we kind of talked about the worm gods already. We talked about that.
Ooh, let's talk about the worm gods being chanted on Io in every single little
Kudo
taken ball.
brownie points if you know which one was missed.
Was it Sol?
Nope, Akka, because it's dead.
Well, yeah. That makes more sense.
Akka was also the one that was missed when Toland was chanting. Because
Also
they didn't
creepy.
understand what he was saying. I was like, lost in translation. That's the best place to be. But
So
yeah.
why are
worm
all
gods.
the riffs? Why are all the riffs chanting just the worm gods?
Are all the riffs chanting them, or just the one?
Because
Because I thought one of them was whispering Savathun.
right. It just yeah. There's like two I know that are mentioned in the scannables that are chanting them, or at least mentioning them. And then yes, the one that's outside by the fountain is chanting Savathun. Why are all the riffs taken?
Well, because they're blights.
Right. They're not actually riffs. I just lost words because
If they were
reasons.
riffs, we would scare Hawthorne and stuff fuel cells into him. That's still one of my favorite lines from the strikes. Is what's that hissing noise? Oh, it's me. Nope, it's not me. Oh, good dunk. What's a dunk? Well, it's when we take a highly combustible fuel cell and shove it into a reactor pipe. What? Don't worry about it. Love Cade.
Is this what be brave
Down
means for you
poncho.
Guardians?
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, you don't like hunters because you don't like capes. Okay, Poncho.
Easy.
I think like honestly, the thing is like because they're blight balls, I think that it's akin to summoning rituals. So depending on who you're trying to summon, or they're like scrying pools. I don't know. Why was Toland sitting in the screaming sea chanting the names?
So is a scrying pool like a palantir from Lord of the Rings?
Yes.
It's a all-seeing type. Window?
Not necessarily all seen, but it's. I mean, well, I guess it depends on the type of scrying pool. But yeah,
So is it possible? This is just completely spin-foiled out, and I just thought of it right now. Is it possible that the blight is somewhat like the window that someone's looking through, and the worm god's names are the incantation that's keeping it open.
Yes, that's what I think. It would probably be possible. I think that's probable because that's the feeling I get for the one that has Savathun's name whispered.
Which is
So then the question is who's doing the looking?
When you stare into the void, does it also stare back into you?
Ooh, that puts that quote in new context.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd have to listen to it from Raul every time I go to decrypt something. He's a little creepy.
Yeah, he's creepier. What happened? They re-rendered him.
They re-rendered him.
He's got a lot more creepy vibe to him now.
I'm sorry, in chat. Osiris, I call it in dark places. What do you want from 7-Eleven, Osiris?
That would be awkward.
Quote, Tolan, probably.
Yeah.
A Red Bull.
A Red Bull. No, only if you get the extra XP.
I would take a Monster, personally.
Beard's like, I need caffeine.
A green one. Just to go along with the Hive. I'm just saying.
He wants a Red Bull and a phone charger. Guess which type? An Android. Wants an Android phone charger.
USB-C only.
Oh my god, don't get me started.
Mission accomplished.
Oh, man. So, Worm Gods, yeah, I really honestly, I think that, to me, that seems like that would make the most sense for the Blight Balls.
Mini Stevie Wonders, if you will.
I don't know how I even with you sometimes.
I don't even know.
Oh, have you not heard this? Have you not heard this? This is like... Oh, my God.
Oh, no.
Post-show.
There's a lot of things that are going to happen in post-show.
Oh, you've been gone a while.
So yeah, I as far as those, I think that's honestly the theories that I have. I don't know if you guys have any different ones. We did get a dispatch. If you guys want to jump onto that one real quick,
Let's do it.
you guys good for that?
Mm-hmm.
Dispatches from the wilds.
All right, so Chargoon actually sent this one in. I really liked it because it kind of twists things a little bit, and it's really fun to think about. He said, "Hey, everyone. So the last chat really got me thinking about how to define morality. What I was able to come up with was that wasn't contradicted by different viewpoint is that morality is a standard of behavior within a group dynamic. So with that thought, I'd say the Hive are the most moral group in the Destiny universe. Everyone else has had some level of discourse. Factions, Yor, Archons, Legions, and even some Vex deviate from the norm. Undying Mind, Talking Harpy, etc. But the Hive obey their creed wholly. Even as enemies kill them, they die by their sword logic, despite the rigged puzzle of the Throne Worlds. Sincerely, Chargoon." Dun dun dun. Thoughts, go.
I think that was one of the things we kind of talked about.
Yeah.
Just the fact that by their own set of morals, they're doing what they think is right.
Mm-hmm. Which makes them so annoying as enemies, because the overzealous person who thinks they're doing right is the one that is never going to question what they're like. Yeah.
You think about it
Everyone.
from
Seems like all we run into these days.
Mm-hmm.
you go from D&D perspective, lawful anything is still lawful, and they are very, very lawful.
Yeah. That's true. That's why lawful characters are fun to play.
But also, lawfulness translates many times into predictability.
Not really. So, like, well, at least in the D&D sense, lawful just means that you adhere to a code of some kind, whether that's not necessarily like laws or anything like that. And that doesn't say that you have to, like, it's not necessarily always to the letter of the law. It could be to, like the often quoted spirit of the law. There's a lot of different ways you can translate things to allow for different actions to be still acceptable within a lawful alignment within the D&D universe, at least.
Translation, all the high follows logic.
Lotta in chat. Like, if you think lawful equals predictive, you're playing lawful wrong. Because...
Well, I'm just saying with the Hive, it seems to have a lot more, I don't know, a lot more of a logical vibe. So I think they're bound by laws where most people are guided by them.
I mean, I would actually argue that that's more of the Taken than the Hive, because the Taken is actually Oryx's attempt to perfect things. So, like, again, I kind of refer back to the Taken Knight card, especially because he's actually rebuking the Hive for not being fully faithful. And that's where you get the idea of him giving a knife to the individual that is being perfected, if you would, to carve away the imperfections. And most of those are Hive. So, like, even the Hive themselves are not, and just because you're technically lawful doesn't mean that you're perfect, right? You can mess up. I mean, D&D, again, going back to the D&D alignment thing, there is a process in which you can change alignments, and it's not always by choice. It's by your actions. So if you fall out of the alignment, you can actually change. So again, I would argue that the Taken are more bound by law than the Hive.
Yeah, I'd probably say that's for the most part true, but I'd say the Taken are bound by a more narrow set of laws, but the principle's the same. It's just the level of restriction,
Right,
would be
yeah.
what I would say is a little different.
Well, and also with the Taken, you have the argument of, do they have their own will? Or are they just, automatons following the will of a puppet master?
I ask myself that every day.
I know you do, and I'm so proud of you for asking yourself that every day. Quick, before this gets even more awkward, Beard, what do you think?
Do it.
I'm okay with the awkward. Let's keep it going.
I'm okay with the awkward.
I honestly think you guys have summed it up. I don't have anything to honestly add to it. I guess the Hive kind of follow that same kind of principle, or follow the principle a little bit closer than most of the others do. I still don't think it's perfect, but even then, if we start to argue that Oryx is creating it to make it as perfect, that's only perfect in his eyes, and realistically, that's only a perspective and a point of view.
Correct.
But when all is said and done, what is the perfect shape? How do you end up meeting that? What is the deep's end goal? Et cetera, because deep is darkness, and darkness is deep, and blah, blah, blah.
Yep, I would agree with
Cosmic law.
Cosmic. That's Beard's buzzword for tonight.
We'll just take that from like the big sun that's in the middle of the universe will go boom, and that will end everything. And then it is over. I don't know. That's all I got for tonight. Yeah.
Green.
No, I'm good.
What? Oh God.
I don't have it. Like, you summed it up quite well, I think.
Yeah.
Yay! All right, guys. I'm actually in shock. We actually managed to wrap it up in less than 2 hours. Do you guys have anything else that we should have mentioned that you think is necessary?
AKA Blue doesn't want to be under 2 hours.
Maybe. It makes me feel weird.
Hey, I got something we can mention.
Okay, let's go for it.
So Shax,
Mhm.
that character there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
Fight forever.
I just wanted to make sure we mentioned Shax a few times in the episode. So it's
Yeah,
not
we were
just like
we were told that we have to mention Shax more as a community by a very highly esteemed individual in our chat.
Yes. Yes.
Welcome to
She wrote-
Focus Fire Chat, now with 20% more shacks.
Well,
And that is the NPC,
Brought to you by Audible.
not shoddily built lean-tos.
don't you mean like, I don't know, math for dummies or something like that? Because we got to put a 20% on it. That means we're like following mathematical terms here. This is
Math for Dummies brought to you by Audible.com.
Yeah, there we go. This is
More
continuing
shacks
to
in
follow
every bite.
Cosmic Law. Yeah, this is continuing to follow Cosmic Law because I could put 20% more hydrogen inside of a sun and keep it around. You know,
0.04% more Shax.
He could take 20% more of my sword. That jerk.
Hey,
No, he couldn't. He
just
took the whole
because
thing the first time.
just because he's the only one that remembers that you're an Iron Wolf doesn't mean that you have to be mad at him.
Cade does too.
Cade too.
Okay,
Yeah, I was about to say
Cade
Cade
too.
Cade does make fun of you. Oh, Saladin still talks about you, Wolfie.
Does he, Cade? Does he?
Oh man. All right, guys. So final thoughts or shout outs. Beard, what do you got for us?
Just continued thank you for everything that you guys do for me. I enjoy our chats, especially when I'm like more awake and everything. I definitely enjoyed the Dead Space discussion, or one-sided as it might have been from before. No, I'm kidding.
No, it was awesome. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, just being able to gush about that game was fantastic. I'm hoping once you guys get done listening to this one, maybe you can go and check that out, because if you're looking for another game with like rich lore to jump back into, it's another really good one. But otherwise, in terms of people to shout out, I'm wondering what's going on with Mylan, because I haven't heard from him in a while, and I am concerned because he is so far away, and I can't just be like Mylan.
And he lives in Australia,
buddy.
which means he's always in danger.
Are you afraid of a Pacific Rim type scenario?
I'm not so much concerned with that. Because
Not like a
Australia.
kaiju?
Well, no. See, Australia already suffers from that with their huge fighters and crap. So they're already fighting kaiju. They're basically the kaiju capital of the world. Even though Japan would make you think that because they deal with Godzilla all the time, this is the truth. No. It's Australia. Freaking dingoes eating babies. Like, come on. Let's go along with it here. They're just big foxes. Like that goes along with kaiju. There's
Actually a strong possibility that he's on a walkabout. If you've seen Mylan, tell him. He'll know what it means. Don't make it weird.
Don't you mean? Hey, Marlon, don't you want a beer?
A Faustus?
Yes.
Because that's what all Australians love, let me tell you.
Look. I have conversed with Long Power Slave and Brainslop enough to understand that beer is their lifeblood. Okay?
Beer is beer,
I
but
get
not
it.
all Australians are fond of Fosters, I will tell you that.
Okay, yes. No, I'm gonna say Foster's. I know for a fact they hate. Like, they hate it down there.
It was just the slogan, you literalists.
Look, I don't care. Why don't you stop being so, I don't know, beerist? Is that even a thing? Now I feel like I'm sitting here talking about Dragon Ball Super with beerist. Moving on, if I start talking about Egyptian cats.
You could totally be beerist. I do live in Colorado. This is a thing here.
Green, what about you?
I mean, look, I live in Pennsylvania. If you don't like Yingling, for God's sake, you may as well just move out of the state.
That's why I don't live there. No,
what's that?
I don't even know what that is.
Yingling. All right.
I thought you said Ylang, which is a sin.
Yingling.
Jingling. If you don't like jingling, if you don't like Santa Claus, you're not cool. Jingling.
Clearly, I can't talk beer with you people.
Jingle.
God.
Jingling.
Oh, you are just the worst type of person.
Green, what about you?
Okay. I'm still trying to decipher what that is because that looked. Anyway.
Yingling? It's a type of beer.
Jingling.
Jingle. No.
Sure.
I will look it up while you do the thing. Okay,
Thank you.
Do your thing.
The thing is letting everybody know who is in our community to kind of show just drop a note for any of the content creators you tend to like, because a lot of us, and this is something I kind of got on Twitter and just tweeted out earlier this week, that a lot of us who are content creators, you may think we hear things all the time, but most of us don't. Not even the big ones. Not like a lot of people don't actually get a lot of just comments saying, "Hey, I enjoy your stuff." That kind of stuff, just showing appreciation to your content creators that you enjoy. It's just kind of a nice treat every once in a while. And that sounds like I'm asking for like compliments. No, that's not what I mean. I mean any of the content creators. We have web developers, we have musicians, like what's Lord Power? Is it Power Slave? Powerhouse? I can't remember.
Power Slave.
He's got some great music and stuff like that. And there's so many different content creators out there who are so talented, but they devote a ton of time outside of their job. I know the four of us have full-time jobs, and we still do a lot of different times outside. The people who put out videos every single day, if they're working a job and doing all of that, it's amazing how much time they're devoting just to bring something to you to make you smile and make your day a little bit better. So let a content creator that you enjoy know that you appreciate them, because I guarantee you they don't hear it nearly enough for all the work they put into it.
I will actually jump off of that a little bit as as my channel has gotten bigger. I have heard it less and less, and it's not that it's asking for you better say thanks like all the time when I make something. It's not that superfluous or self-centered. It's just a matter of I thrive on that extra little denotion because it helps me to kind of keep motivated. So, as somebody that was a smaller creator and now is a little larger, and I still don't know where I am at this point. Long story short, it does help a lot with anybody that is like growing their portfolio, growing their catalog for you guys, because it just does help them to keep motivated, largely. So definitely go. And I'm not just saying me. Like, go thank anybody that you can. If it's not me, which I would hope that's understandable in my brain. Trust me, I get it. But if you go ahead and just
don't tell Jim that, he'll get on you.
Oh, I know. If he listens to this, and I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. I get it. I already understand it.
Let Mom know.
Yes, I know. He'll be like, you sit down and drink your beer and get better about it. And I'll be like, well, you see, Jim, I'm going to sit here and drink this Yingling, and you can't have it because
Okay, I'm looking
you're
it
so
up.
far away. I have it in the chat.
That's what I'm
Penn
doing.
posted
I'm
it.
going.
You've got plenty.
You're misspelling jingling, by the way. I'm one of the stickler.
Look, I'm not trying to spell Jingle Bell Rock. There is none of that. The season has passed, and I would very much like to forget it.
I'm more
Thanks.
purist, but okay.
I'm a more purist.
I'm more purist.
All right, Justin, what about you?
If Beard is done jingling, yeah. So it's just like Green and Beard said. They're not in it for any type of like attaboy or pat on the back or anything. Whereas I'm all about that. Your tribute is my lifeblood, and through the streams of your tribute, my power surges. So please let me know just how awesome I am.
Justin is the hive god confirmed. Like to say
you.
this.
And thus
Well-
I define me.
And thank God Toland is in there just to screw up your entire tithing.
I think if I can upset you, I could get to Toland.
That is
You
a
know-
fair point.
I will actually thank you for the compliment, good sir.
Yes. I think if I can flabbergast Bife and flummox Beard, I think I could probably I think I could make Toland bounce an expletive. I think I could make it happen.
I think he would just be like, you complete nincompoop. Wait, that's Asher. Hang on.
No. Anyways, just like they said, content creators and all that jazz. Be sure and just when anyone makes something, like, you don't necessarily need to be told that you're amazing for making it, but when you are appreciated for it, it's real special to that person. So 3 or 4 words can I mean, I don't know about Blue, but anyone who does this podcasting thing or the YouTube thing or whatever, there's been times when it's been late and you've been doing something and you've kind of thought to yourself, my God, why am I going through this? And then you'll just see a really cool comment will pop up of someone talking about how you made them smile, or that they're a trucker and they listen to you while they drive, and it makes their week. So anyways, I'm just saying, just take that moment and say, thank you. Also tip your waitress.
20%. Don't shortchange him that 18% bull crap.
Yeah. Even if you're not sure, your phone will tell you.
Your phone will tell you.
But will it?
Oh, man. All right. Well, next week's discussion is going to be on Exodus Black. As usual, if you guys have any thoughts or questions about that, please be sure to email us, shoot us a tweet over on Twitter, or message us on Discord. Any of those options are always worthwhile. Big thank you to all the subscribers and patrons, both on Twitch and also over on Podbean's crowdfunding. You guys are definitely a big part of why we continue to do this, because we don't want to let you guys down, and we don't want to let everyone that we think is enjoying what we do, especially Justin's technological difficulties aside. His humor is definitely something that we cannot stop from sharing with everyone. But yes, I think that's everything. And stick around if you guys are in the live chat. If you're not in the live chat, be sure to come by and you can see what the craziness of the after show is like. So here we go. With that, we'll begin to wrap the chat up. Thank you again to those over on Twitch for coming to spend your evening with us. If you'd like to join us for the live streaming of the episodes, please be sure to give us a follow over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. Links to all our other sites can also be found with our episode archives over on the new FocusFireChat.com. Please be sure to email us at focusfirechat@gmail.com with any questions or comments for our team concerning the podcast, and let us know how we're doing by giving us some feedback and a rating over on iTunes as well. Also, be sure to check out all of our amazing podcast partners within the Guardian Radio Network over on theguardiansofdestiny.com. So until next time, focus your fire and may your light shine bright.